And
Back to you,
building on
Naomi.
that very comment, Dan, of being well informed brings us right to the marketing of it. As you talked about the meetings and the groups, we're going to get into that now and see how important this is, that not only we have these practices, but that we are effectively marketing them. So a couple of quick statistics. It's been shown the effect on guest reviews. Hotels that have more green programs, that have the certifications, they are getting higher ratings and rankings than hotels without. Looking at the event planning side, 79% of event planners would avoid a destination or venue with a poor environmental record. So this is something that is, we look at the transient side of our business. We have guests individually that are looking for more green opportunities, and we're going to see that in just a moment. But if we look at the group side of our business, companies are outside of our industry are getting very focused on green. And this is something that they are being held accountable for themselves. So when they do have meetings, we have some examples here. One, there's websites dedicated to finding the best places to meet green and see how locations are rated and ranked. Going right back to what you talked about with the City of Denver, Dan. And then we see that from the meeting planner perspective, they're looking to have that zero waste mentality and philosophy. And this requires careful planning, making sure that anything that is utilized, signage, et cetera, is biodegradable, it's reusable, it's recyclable, and that there's the printing and the paper waste consumption is being eliminated. We see examples of that. One is a great one that comes from Oracle and their Open World annual event. Simple things that they're looking for is how they handle their signage. And for water, so no longer is the emphasis on our catering departments to upsell bottles of water. Instead, companies are looking for replacing those bottles of water with pitchers and jugs. In this case, they, instead of using 500,000 bottles of water, the switch saved them $1.5 million, which was reinvested in the event. So the companies that utilize our hotels are looking for greener practices, and at the meeting planner level, this is what they're looking for. So that makes us, again, come back to the websites of the companies and say, okay, well, what are we doing? And of course, Marriott is at the forefront. They have some terrific information on eco meetings and eco planning. One thing that they do is they've eliminated tablecloths on their meeting tables. That means no hot water or electricity to wash them, dry them, iron them. They're using the water pitchers versus the bottled waters, and many other steps. And there's some terrific information. In fact, we have a screenshot on the lower left here showing their green meeting planning site. However, and this is where we're encouraging the industry to put this conversation more on the forefront of our websites. To get to that, we have to go through the corporate responsibility links at the bottom of the page, and then we find that. Whereas if we click simply on meetings and events, we don't get that information. So as we look at the different opportunities to move the conversation forward, we see guests are demanding it, meeting planners are demanding it. Let's move the green to the front of the conversation. Our websites, our companies, they have great information, but to find it, you have to go to the bottom of the website pages, click on corporate responsibility, and then search for it from there. And we can see this shift taking place. Here's an example of what TripAdvisor has now done. Now, we all know how important TripAdvisor is for a business. Note this, they have a Green Leaders program, and now as part of the search and results, earlier, we pulled up some hotels in San Francisco, and notice the category right here. Out of the 236 hotels, 36 of them are labeled green, and it's labeled if the hotel is green or not. Marketing green, having the practices in place, is going to control our costs, reduce our consumption, and marketing it properly now is generating more green for our businesses. So before I go on, Dan, would you please chime in on this subject between the meeting side of it and the transient side and the marketing.
As I mentioned before, the meeting planners are putting this into their, something about environmental sustainability and recycling programs into the request for proposal. We also need to look at the consumers of the guest rooms, and by and large we see an increase in millennials who are now of discretionary purchasing power, making important decisions about where they're staying, whether it's business trips, family leisure trips, or even decisions for their companies, perhaps regarding negotiating policies as part of procurement where business travel will occur in their companies. And as I said before, the environment is very important to them, so they are considerations into their business decision making. Now, what's important, we've talked about a lot of different ways to employ some best practices that we've seen across the industry to save money. But the other part is to look at how you can monetize and communicate what you're doing to attract new business or to build your business. And some of these initiatives may cost some money up front. There may be some investment that people need to focus on. And what we are finding is that consumers are willing to pay a premium, a slight premium, if they know that a company is doing good and has great practices in place. So the question then becomes, how do meeting planners, the decision makers of these big purchase decisions, are aware and making decisions in a responsible manner? And so when you think about many consumers today, they might go to an online travel agency, for example, and search on a hotel in a given city, and then they get kind of side-by-side comparisons, product A, product B, product C, and the consumers are trying to make a delineation of what's different about each property over another and what is the value proposition. And if they look at just price alone, it may not tell the whole story. So we need to think about how a property can sell its green initiatives. Now, there are some efforts being implemented within the industry today. We just had on the screen what Priceline is doing, the I Stay Green. But the problem with that is that it's a special search engine. So consumers who are, if you will, kind of the green travelers, and that's a growing segment of people, we've in the past used the term eco travel. They'd have to call up this search engine separately. And I think what we need to do is find ways that this becomes more mainstream, that when you search for a property in a given city, it comes up and it starts telling consumers different information about maybe their commitment to sustainability in the environment, their carbon footprint, how good or bad a property is. That sense of accountability will be important to move the industry in kind of a leapfrog manner to make some giant strides, but it will be an opportunity for those who are on the leading edge to really shine and be more competitive. The Seaport Hotel in Boston, which this example shows, is a really great example of focusing its commitment on the environment, green, and trying to communicate right front and center to its guests, to its meeting planners, what some of its efforts are doing. And I think that increasingly sustainability and social responsibility, well, many companies have these reports and they put them somewhere on their website. Often they're embedded, and this is now something that's more of a priority in people's thinking when they're making purchase decisions. So it shouldn't be relegated to the back page, so to speak. It needs to be front